Café Anyway. Hello, it's Mike.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Mike Matthews here at Café Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth in the land of Ameritopica. It's FFF episode. Mike's Daily Podcast. 2,840. How you doing? Are you doing okay? Did you get through everything happening in your life? Okay. Today, I say, mon frere, I'm done. Mike's Daily Podcast. With that particular song. Nothing else to say, really. And, what? Mike's Podcasting Daily Listening Habits? Podcast. Interesting. Yeah! Let's see, it says here that the new podcast. Did you know podcast consumption is undercounted? Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Due to co-listening with friends, family, and children. Co-listening. 14% of the weekly podcast audience say they frequently listen with others. But wait. When I was doing the radio DJ thing, I was told by my program director, because we'd have to have an air check meeting. We'd have to meet and discuss what I could improve on the radio, even though I talked for like 10 seconds at the most on the air. But you got to sound good, sound bright and tight, what they said. Keep it short. And they would say, remember, you're never saying ladies and gentlemen on the radio because there's only one person listening to you at a time. You talk to the one listener. It's the one person driving in the car, which I understood because I'm an only child. And when I listened to the radio as a kid, there's never anybody around. Maybe my mom was, but...
And here's today's podcast picture.
It was background noise. She wasn't really listening. The podcast picture is of my wonderful excursion that I took last week to the Half Moon Bay area with my lovely lady friend. We took a drive through the mountains. We actually got off on Skyline Boulevard and drove through all the trees. And it was so nice. We stopped at this cool roadhouse bar and had a beer. I had Pliny the Elder, and I stuck my feet in this creek that was going by. Oh, it was wonderful. See that picture at mikesdailypodcast.com. The late great Basil the Boxer. He went to Half Moon Bay many times, but did not actually get to go to this particular roadside bar. We drove past it. I remember we walked through the trees and it was a lot of fun. And he would co-listen to the podcasts that I would listen to. But the co-listening profile varies by genre. Consumers who frequently co-listen make up a large portion of the kids' family genre. That makes sense. They're listening to the kiddie shows. So that's 31%. And they actually re-watch podcasts. Now, wait a minute. You don't re-watch a podcast. You re-listen to it. This is already upsetting me. 26% for that. But this came from the Podcast Pro newsletter. Yeah, I'm going to pretty much just delete this baby because that's already I'm infuriated now. You don't rewatch a podcast. You listen. If you're rewatching it, it's not a podcast. It's a video. And this is the problem. Our society has decided that nope, we're going to make...
Now that's legit.
Anything that's pre-recorded and you're playing back is going to be a podcast, even if it's video. Which then, now we got to say audio podcast or video podcast to clarify. It's going to be confusing as heck. So you don't really listen to podcasts on Instagram. I have little snippets on my Instagram at mikesdailypodcast.com is my handle on Instagram. Instagram is trying out unskippable ads as big tech has hit an unskippable growth wall. Yes, they can't seem to make much more money than what they've got. What they've got. So they're trying to shove more ads in. They got a countdown timer that blocks users from scrolling their feeds until they viewed an ad. That's how they're doing it. I'm going to just scroll through. I'm going to do the little thing. Nope. Got to watch an ad first. Oh, so House of Dragon has raised the prices. Max is the latest streaming service to get more expensive. Warner Brothers announced that it's raising prices.
I can't believe. What the hell is this place anyway?
Café Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. So now it's gone up to about $17 a month on what used to be called HBO Max. This is about 2 weeks before the second season of House of Dragon begins, which premiered to over 10 million viewers last year, it says here. Yes, it features Matt Smith with white hair. Matt Smith was on Doctor Who. And I'm pretty much completely over Doctor Who now. The only thing, I don't sit through an episode of Doctor Who anymore. I sit through a YouTube video of someone talking about it and going through everything and saying, okay, we're going to give away all the spoilers. We're going to give away everything, all the stuff, all the big surprises. We're going to tell you now. And I say perfect. A, I don't want Disney Plus because that's where I gotta buy to watch it. And B, I don't like what they've done. I mean, Russell T Davies, he's a brilliant writer, but no. And then the stuff that Chris Chibnall did before that. Ugh.
Anyway.
Café Anyway is where we are, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. And the latest one, some kind of social media commentary. It's like a world where they're completely addicted to social media. It's kind of like a Wall-E world. As we go outside of Café Anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. There we go. Trying to get my bearings straight. In the Bering Strait? No, we're in a Maritopica, not the Bering Strait. The thing is that Wall-E was not created by Doctor Who. Yet it stands as a very groundbreaking, entertaining bit of sci-fi that Pixar created, which I guess is that's Disney Plus if you want to watch that. But everything. So I usually watch the Who Culture channel on YouTube to find out what they break it all down. They got really good video editing. It's not always.
Good morning, Mr. Matthews.
Why, thank you. Good job, kids. It's not like some British guy in front of, a lot of these, you just have a camera on a British guy behind a microphone. And you see so many of these. And it's just the guy talking and maybe a little picture. No, I want to see video. Show me video. This is a video, quote unquote, podcast. I want to see the video, not just you talking about it. Why the fast? I wish the world would have just stopped and turned off the cameras and just focused on the audio and people talking into the microphone. Why do I need to see you talking to a microphone? It's not 1995 and Howard Stern's behind the microphone and the E channel showing that every night. And that was only interesting because he had his cast of characters that were also on camera, Robin and all the rest. And then you had the interesting celebrities stop by. And yes, he would have his other very off-color type things going on as well. That made the censors go nuts. So the point is, back to we were talking about Doctor Who. So I don't watch. I watch the
You ready?
YouTube channels. Yes, I'm ready to move on to the next interesting thing about space. SpaceX launched its fourth Starship test flight. It's the first time SpaceX returned the booster in one piece, We were one step closer to returning to the moon and looking forward to Mars. Elon doing that. And then artificial intelligence stat is $50 billion. That's the amount of tech. That's the amount that the tech industry spent on NVIDIA chips. $50 billion last year. For AI training purposes, $50 billion spent to train the AI so it can do things like when you ask it to do things. But the industry the industry brought in only $3 billion in revenue from the investment. So they spent $50 billion, only brought in $3 billion. That from Rob Black. I produce the podcast. He's heard on AM 1220 KDOW weekday mornings, and he's seen on television on Cron TV Monday through Thursday in the 9 o'clock hour. And he grabbed some fascinating stuff, I must say. That fascinates me because I'm Spock, and he always said, fascinating. Dwindling diamond demand. The demand for diamonds has declined as its allure fades. Ooh, one thing about Rob. He was discussing about a coworker, someone.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
Wild. This is wild. Wow. He was discussing someone, didn't say their name, but I knew them. In fact, they worked for me as well as for Rob, but they were working. I basically hired him to work for Rob. So I was the reason why Rob worked with him. And the thing that was interesting and fascinating was that, and wow, that's wild, is that this guy that once worked in radio, and he did work in radio for quite a while, his wife worked in radio as well and TV. He got out, and she got out. She actually was let go. He decided to quit radio, and he actually got pretty far up in this one Bay Area radio company. He left my company, went with someone else. Thanks. Left me high and dry when I had a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, this is the last thing I need. But that's what you got to do when you're a manager and a leader. You got to improvise and come up with a different way, different thing. And I found someone else, and they ended up being even worse. And then, anyway, Café Anyway.
Bison Bentleys. Do you know that?
Hey, this is Bison Bentley, and Mike Matthews has a couple of stories that'll make you want to ask yourself, do you know that?
Do you know that this story has a happy ending? Because the guy that left radio, left my company, then went to a better radio place, and then left that company, he has moved to a state that's less expensive and is working for the prison system there in a maximum security prison as a guard. And because it is a high-risk situation, he's going to be making a lot of money and getting a pension. And good for him. And Rob was talking about that story recently, and I just find it interesting. And he brought up this point is, now, I don't think the guy that became the prison guard decided as a child, hey, I want to get into the prison guard industry and become a prison guard. But life throws these things at you. And he might be happy. All I can tell you is when this guy worked for me, he'd find quite a few interesting excuses to get out of waking up at 4 a.m. to go to work. And leave me and other people in the lurch. Oftentimes, many times. I'd get... so how he is going to be...
Do you have any safe spaces?
Safe spaces?
Yes, where people can go to get away from the colonialist mentality. As long as there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, we'll be fine.
Literally, his job is working with convicts. Possibly even killers. And worse. I guess there is worse. Well, a combination of all kinds of bad people. That is his job now. It's not the worst thing about his job is getting up early. That is his job, working with people that could kill him, that could cause him all kinds of I don't know how he couldn't even deal with the stress of waking up early and working on the radio. He couldn't deal with that stress, so now he's going to do this. This is fraught with issues. as you can see. Okay, anyway, Café Anyway, Diamonds. Yes, it was a great song by Herb Alpert and Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson's on tour. Woo! Okay, Herb Alpert played the trumpet, and he had some bizarre hit songs. He's known in the 70s for this song, or was it the 60s? I need your love. Say you're in love with this.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
All right, I'll stop. Since you asked nicely. Convicts, speaking of which, the demand for diamonds has declined as its allure fades. Declining marriage rates, as well as the growing popularity for gold and lab-grown gems, have all drove down the demand for diamonds. The end of pandemic restrictions also saw consumers channeling their spending toward travel experiences instead of diamond products. They want to go somewhere. They want to experience things. They want to travel. They don't want diamonds. Diamond prices have fallen. And, it really does seem like diamonds were a thing that, all right, I'm in my 50s, so it was a thing my parents were into. It was a thing my generation was into. It was a thing the slightly younger generation was into. That's my note to self. But diamond prices have fallen nearly 6% so far this year, declining more than 30% from their all-time high, which was, interestingly enough, 2 years ago in 2022. In the U.S., which is the largest consumer of diamonds, half of engagement ring stones will be lab-grown this year, up from 2% in 2018. So, what? Wow. That is a crazy statistic. Half of all engagement ring stones are going to be lab-grown this year. And it was only 2% just 5-6 years ago. Crazy. Lab-grown diamonds, which can be up to 85% cheaper than natural diamonds. That definitely has an appeal. Lab-grown diamonds, 85% cheaper. Let's hear it for that. Wow. Thank you. Look who's outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. The last place on earth. So excited to talk to them. Let's say hi. Hello, Kathy. This is Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. Why do you sound like Mr. Rogers right now? Not sure why we're going to do that. Because I'm Mr. Rogers. Thought that was going to be funny. Mike Matthews, I get a lot of spam calls. Would you like some root beer? You're not supposed to pour the root beer for me. It's supposed to be poured by the Brewmaster. Yeah, Mike Matthews, but he's not here right now.
Try to game me. No.
Are they laughing at you or me, Chely? I don't know, Mike Matthews, but they seem really happy. All right, I haven't drank the root beer today.
Oh my God, man.
Maybe I should drink the root beer because they seem pretty happy. All right, look who else is here. Hello, Mike. This is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, this podcast is fraught with all kinds of knowledge and stuff, Mike Matthews. You know what it's also fraught with is me completely frothing at the mouth because lately, the past couple of days, I have had over 30 spam calls to my cell phone, which is not the number that I tell you at the end of every podcast that you can call me at 510-228-4640. But I went and rechecked. Am I on the Do Not Call registry, which you can go to donotcall.gov to check. And sure enough, I am. And I signed up like in 2020, well over 4 years ago. And dang, I'm still getting calls. I'm still getting texts, even though I have an Android phone and I have the little thing from Google that allows you to block calls and block texts, but I don't know what's going on. I hate it. So there's all that interesting. Would we call all this tech knowledge, tech news? Maybe that's what it is. Who am I to ask these
Mike
things?
Matthews? You not know Mike Matthews.
I am Mike.
Really?
Eminem.
We got Eminem.
I am Eminem. Yes. Mad Mike.
The real Eminem.
Eminem. Mike Matthews, actually. Why are you doing this to me? I don't need this kind of scrutiny in my life is what I'm telling you.
Brewmaster.
It's what I need is a burger. All right, thank you for listening to... And if you would like to call in and comment about anything we covered on the podcast, why, I will give you the number now, which I did also...
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4640.
Anarchy! I don't even know what that means, but I love it.
And for all the past podcast pictures and all the places you can find Mike's Daily Podcast and why, if you want to email me as well, all that information, let's go to the mainframe and talk to A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!